You know, I
I think
I
one
have
of
a reflection, Jonathan,
go
a
on.
kind of a bigger picture reflection, um, that your thoughts about, you know, where we're going with our world sort of brought to my mind, and it has to do with accessibility and empowerment. So in the world of tech and and that sort of thing, we have participated in something that has empowered people in creating documents that themselves are powerful and rich, filled with information, not just beautiful typography. And I think the real test of our success as well as developers and cheerleaders, it is going to be the degree to which we see people showing up empowered and being in a position of empowerment in relation to their documents. And it only takes a little bit of reflection on what it was like to publish a book such as this, which is copyright 1954 and was probably done in the early days of photo offset, but it was not uncommon to have letterpress back in this post-World War II era. And, you know, Knuth has this very poignant story about how difficult the transition was from the earlier days when math books were typeset in a particular way and the typography was very good. And then he started writing Art of Computer Program at a point in time when it was no longer economically feasible to continue that way. And he was not happy with uh, what he was being presented with. So his dissatisfaction ultimately resulted in his developing TeX, Metafont, Tangle and Weave, and so on. And he was joined by a lot of other people, but that was the point in time when the desktop revolution, the desktop publishing revolution broke open and authorship as a whole exploded. But I think that if if it has empowered people to create rich documents, documents rich in information, documents with math, for instance, um, that people can create and ultimately have control over, like self-publish, like you see in the um, archive.org, you know, spelled with an X, and there are others of that sort that are open publishing venues. Then we'll have seen a massive empowerment of information sharing. And back when we were all young, babes in arms, that world didn't look like that because publishers formed a sort of publishers were a gatekeeper, and they formed a barrier between people's desire to share information and the ability to actually communicate that with other people. And this has all changed in our lifetimes. We've participated in the change too.
2 points, a funny one and a more serious one. The funny one, I read recently an interview with Don Knuth that he said that TeX was originally intended only for himself and his secretary. So it's good that it escaped. And as far as archive goes, if it worked as most people think it works, it would be good. But there are a lot of decisions made by the gatekeepers whom no one controls, and that's becoming an increasingly big problem. And in some fields, practically all papers are on archive. So if you're not on archive, you might as well not publish. But if archive doesn't want to take your paper for whatever reason, there's nothing you can do about it. And many people have told me they're afraid to speak up about it because they feel they'll get banned for life from archive, which is sort of the modern day equivalent of excommunication, if you like. And there's a big elephant in the room here with respect to archive. I mean, the attraction of it is that it's a one-stop shop. You know, you don't have to look at the websites of all the journals or all the institutes or whatever. People expect everything to be there. But, you know, if for some reason, you know, they reject papers and don't give a reason for it and so on. I'm not talking about crackpots. I'm talking about people who publish in the top journals in the field. And I know I've done a bit of research about it and we'll publish something on it soon, hopefully. But it appears that they're afraid of getting sued by crackpots. So they choose to sacrifice a few real papers and put them in a sort of bogus category and let through a few crackpot papers so they can say to the crackpot, looks, you know, we've got some papers and they're in the same category as these from this major journal. So shut up. And it's a huge problem. And fortunately, I've managed to convince someone who's quite well known in the field to get behind this and publicize it a bit more. And, you know, it's true that publishers were gatekeepers, but I'm also reminded of Robert Pirsig, who back in the 70s wrote a book called Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And in the foreword, he tells how, I think it was 128 publishers had rejected his manuscript. And then finally one said, I don't think it's going to make me any money, but that's what I went into publishing to do. And he published it. It later became a bestseller and, you know, made millions for the author and the publisher. But, you know, you can always go to another publisher, but if you have a monopoly like Archive, there's no alternative, yeah? And so that's the sort of negative aspect of this. And, you know, it would be great, I think. I published once something in an archive overlay journal, and around the same time, as I've mentioned here before, articles in traditional journals going through 8 proofs because they can't get the typesetting correct. These are supposedly professionals. You know, I would prefer to self-publish everything in my own LaTeX, but that depends on archive working in an accountable way and not, you know, basically, you know, if you look at the fine print, which they've changed not too long ago, it basically says, we reserve the right to reject any submission for any reason, and we don't have to tell you why, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what you sort of have to sign, you know, that you agree to if you submit it to archive, which is, I think, really bad for the community. You know, it started out as a preprint server, and preprints are sort of, well, you know, it's not official. The official thing is the published document, but more and more, the preprint has become the paper, so to speak. And yeah, so there are sad aspects of it as well.